Hi, my name is Elias Noel, and today we're reading between the frames with a scene from Silent Hill 2. Our establishing shot here is a medium wide with Angela facing away from us in the foreground and James far in the background. Notice how James is small and out of focus while Angela is large and faceless. The shot immediately establishes James as insignificant and Angela as both vulnerable but also hiding something. It's also super important to note that both characters' faces are obstructed or obscured in this shot. James is blurred and Angela is turned away. So let's make a note of how many times we actually see the characters' faces directly. Next shot is a close-up of Angela. We see her face for the first time and what she's hiding. Her knife, a symbol of her suicidal thoughts. Cut to a two-part master shot. Here it's revealed that we were lied to in the first shot. The James we saw was actually a reflection in the mirror. This combined with Angela hiding the knife and the obscured faces means we've just visually established that this is a scene about deception and reflection. In regards to the composition, notice how both characters are facing away from each other. James's face is only visible in the reflection of the mirror. He's talking to Angela and us through his reflection. It's not the real James. By having both characters face the mirror, the visuals illustrate that the two characters are reflections of each other. Now, the camera tracks right, focusing our attention on James and Angela's reflection. They're communicating through the mirror indirectly, which lessens the impact of what they're saying to each other. James seems to be saying the right things to Angela, but it's not really him saying it directly. It's his reflection. This gives a sense of falsehood to the claim that there's always another way. Cut into a medium of Angela, which also serves as a wide for James. This is a super sophisticated shot because we get 2 for 1. The largest element in frame is Angela's rear end, with James right above it. If these were actors, I'd be looking at his eyeline because there's a bit of sexual implication here. As the camera moves right and Angela calls out James for being suicidal, he immediately denies it. Again, this is his reflection, so his words ring as false. Also note, we have yet to see James's actual face directly, and we've only seen Angela's once. Next is an awkward two-shot that subtly gives us Angela's reflection. Note how she's becoming increasingly vulnerable in these shots, and James is increasingly obscured with only his leg in frame. The dialogue here is irrelevant. Both characters are talking to each other, but communicating very little, so we don't see much of them. We cut to my favorite shot in the scene, an overhead of Angela and her reflection. This is the second time we see her face, both of which reveal her darker personality. There are 2 Angelas in this shot, illustrating her dual personalities, one artifice and one true. The composition looks both like that of a Rorschach painting, but also strangely like female reproductive organs. Cut to a medium of Angela. This is the first face-to-face interaction between the 2 characters, and we only see Angela's face. We're left to having to use James's reflection for his reaction. Also, the camera movement here spins towards Angela, illustrating her mental instability. As we shift to the overhead shot, Angela begins to regress, but James's face is still obscured. Whether we know it or not, the scene is evoking untrustworthiness in James. The power dynamic has also shifted. James is far larger in shot, and Angela is made more insignificant by the overhead camera. Also, although both characters are facing each other, they're not actually looking at each other. Finally, we get a direct shot of James's face. Almost 3 minutes into the scene. Only 6 seconds with James, and we're back to a close-up with Angela. Note, the spinning camera is moving back towards James. As we move to the next shot, Angela is even more like a child, looking up at James, who's barely in frame. James's movement tells a lot. He turns away from Angela when explaining what happened to Mary, and his face is neither visible to us on screen, nor in the mirror, nor to Angela. So by the time that we get this line,
Well, don't worry. I'm not crazy. At least I don't think so.
we don't buy it. In fact, because she has had more direct FaceTime with us than James, and she is depicted in a powerless position, we're now more emotionally connected with Angela than James. This is deliberate. The next shot has a predatory quality to it because both James and his reflection are surrounding Angela, so she moves. We get our first face-to-face 2 shot in the whole scene as the camera keeps spinning towards James. But look at Angela's body language. She doesn't stay in place, preventing this from being a proper 2 shot. She turns away from James, giving us yet another over-the-shoulder shot instead. Cut into an over-the-shoulder close-up of Angela to emphasize the elephant in the room. the knife. Since we haven't really used any close-ups yet, this shot also traps Angela with James in frame. She moves away and then finally directly faces James as the scene comes to its culmination. We get our face-to-face two-shot, and as James approaches, the shot doesn't last more than a few seconds. The camera moves in and then out, just as James does, so we're back with him. Then the camera floats up above Angela as she withdraws into her girlish personality and leaves. We resume position behind James as he looks for Angela. And the final shot is a medium Dutch shot with James and the knife, and the scene ends. So who wins the scene? James convinces Angela to let go of the knife, but it feels like a loss because of Angela's reaction. The final shot makes us wonder if James's goal the entire time was acquiring the knife, or some sort of sexual desire for Angela. And because we don't get another direct shot of his face, we're left questioning James's motivations. As for the faces, in total, we see Angela's face directly about 9 or 10 times, with James once for 6 seconds. This visually sets up the idea that James is an unreliable narrator hours before the game begins to reveal to us in story and dialogue that all is not right with Mr. Sunderland. If you like this analysis, then I recommend taking a look at the other scenes in the game, as they all have their own subtext and meaning supporting the game's dark and emotional narrative. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if so, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Next is the last video in the Silent Hill 2 series, where I go into the true ending of Silent Hill 2. See you then.